On the 3rd November, I was caught by German Wehrmacht and sent to labor in a place called Growth Ration. And I worked in a glass factory, 12 hours a day, which I was not used to it. And so it was not too hard, but it was hard. My mother comes from a mixed family. That means she married a Pole called Kowalski. Her mother was a German named Gebler. Now that SS man pressed on mother to apply for the German nationality. My mother at first didn't want it, accept the German nationality, but he forced her. And she had a piece of paper that she was forced to accept the German nationality. So I found myself in 1942 in German army. I served 1 year and was released on that ground that my father was a Pole, so I should not serve in the army. After 6 months, because there was many casualties on the Russian front, they took us back to the army. But there was a lot of us, or in the same position like me, which escaped to the Russians. But the Russians didn't treat it decent. They shot them, things like that. But the Germans noticed that and took all the Poles which been in the army, the German army, on the French front, to France. And the German soldiers, pure Germans, went to Russia. And so, after 6 or 7 months, I cannot remember exactly, I found myself in France. There, I escaped during a battle with French underground army. I joined the French underground army only for about 3 weeks. Dakotas, English planes, been landing in the valleys and taking back volunteers to the Polish army. And so, in 1943, I found myself in Eastbourne. After interrogation, one thing with another, which was very, very strict, I got released and could join the Polish army. And I joined the Polish commando. After a period of time, I found myself in Italy and did the campaign in Italy and finished in Bologna. In Bologna, that was 45. In 1946, we've been all evacuated to England.
When the Malaysia fell in December 1941, I was only about 4 years old. I remember all that with the Japanese taking over Malaysia. All the government officials, we have to leave our houses, and we went into hiding because Japanese were looking for all the officials that were working for the British military administration. Before my father closed his office down, he pulled all the wardrobes forward and threw all the documents at the back of the wardrobes. Slowly he started disposing of the files, and we went into hiding into the jungles. We went to a place called Mersing, near Kota Tinggi, way up there, waterfall. Oh, we must be there about 6-7 months. I think we were down there. We had to plant our own food, everything. You see, we had to survive, live, and hunting. We used to get pigs. And when we used to go down, when we came back, took over this job, we used to go down to Singapore to visit our cousins and all. We used to go down on a bus from Johor Bahru to Singapore. It's about 16 miles. And we used to stop about every 3-4 miles. Everybody used to get down. There used to be a sentry post, and we used to bow down to the Japanese soldier and get back on the bus. And about the 3-4 miles, we used to have to disembark from the bus again and bow to the soldier. Yes, I remember liberation. Yes, it was on 1945, I think, was it. when the Japanese surrendered, it was a big celebration in Singapore everywhere. On that particular day, before the liberation, the Indian soldiers came round from the British Indian Army soldiers came round in the morning. They plane flew over it. They threw pamphlets, leaflets. And when they threw these leaflets, we went round picking them up, you see. And the Japanese chased us with the swords. They said they just got the swords out. They said, "Kura bagero," they said. They chased us out. We had to run away because they didn't want us to pick.
My eldest brother, with whom I was living at Delhi, he migrated to England. So I thought, better I try to go there. I start to read the newspaper, go in the library. And one day I read advertisement in the Tribune, which is Indian newspaper, that British government, they want labor migrant. So I, filled the form or application. Then in 4 weeks, I got the employment voucher. 23rd of November 1965. From Delhi, I went to Bombay by train. It took me 28 hours, Delhi to Bombay. The distance is approximately 1,000 miles. Then from Bombay to Marseille by ship, commercial ship. Then from Marseille to Calais, Dover. Then from Dover to Victoria, London by train. In total, including Delhi to Bombay and Bombay to Victoria, it took me 17 days. And most of my colleagues, passengers, they were vomiting all the time. But I was the only one keeping fit, drinking whiskey. I came over here in 1965. Then when I came over here, I was going to the clubs and, So my eldest brother advised me, go back to India and get married. So I went to India end of April, after 5-6 months, and got married there. Then in end of May, my wife and my child, we both came back. First impression was not very good, being a cold weather. I came at the wrong time. I was freezing. After arriving over here, when I came in 1965, I lived with my brother at a rented room, not a house, with an old, very, very good lady, English lady.
I came by air because they were the first time the plane was landing in Dominica, and it was very excited, and that we had the airport in Melvin Hall, and there were lots of people excited, and they would come over to see the planes come and things like that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I came to Islyn with a family. It was a doctor from Stillington, and we came over. I was working for him, and then he brought me because I wanted to do nursing, and that was the whole thing of it. I went to Newcastle in the northeast. I think it was one of the house. Yeah, lots of West Indian people used to come, the teachers and everything, the West Indies, and a lot of Asian and everything. And I stayed there for a while before I moved over to Millsborough, to Stockton. Stockton, yeah. Ooh, cold. I remember when I was in the baby house, and I saw this thing coming down the snow. There were lots of mothers and babies who lived there. After they had their babies, the people would come and take them, and there was a lot of crying. And it was adoption or, give away the baby, because there were young people with no husbands and that, and they had to give the baby up. That it was rainy, cold, and I remember going out in the snow and saw this white thing, and I put my mouth for the snow to come in it. It was well funny. I said, "What's that?" Snow. The first time I'd seen snow, and it was very sort of, to wear big coats and everything like that. And I couldn't understand why people were getting up in the dark and going to work, and the buses were stopping, And when I got up, everybody had breakfast and gone to work. And why are people going to work in the dark? And there were lights on the streets. And I used to live in the guest house on the main high street in Stockton, but I didn't like it. It was bed and breakfast and all that sort of thing. So one day I was coming down the street one Sunday, and I met this gentleman, and he said, "Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Dominica." He said, "Oh, you must come and meet my wife." And she was, so I couldn't wait for the time to come in the afternoon, and then I went down and met her, and she was doing nursing too. She was a nurse, and she had a little boy, and then we got talking and that, and I moved in the house because they had a room at the back, and we started doing nursing. Happy times, really.
We came in airplane, transferred from Aksara. We travelled to Ankara from where we lived. It was about a 3-hour drive. Then we went from Ankara to Istanbul, in about an hour flight, and from Istanbul to Manchester. Well, we didn't know it was Manchester, we just know it was an airport. Before I came here, all I've seen was just the one photo of the England that my dad was in, and it was in the alleyway, like behind the shops, and it was just like rows of houses. And when we came, my mum didn't come because she had a visa problem, so it was just my brother and my sister came here. We just travelled from Manchester to Denby, and we just travelled, and I thought, it's a big country. And then everywhere was green. It was like it was like winter, springtime, and it was sort of green everywhere. I thought it was like a nice green country, like loads of trees, and there's trees in Turkey, but it's mostly dry. There was not much impression. It was like more of a shock than an impression. I left all my friends behind, got no one here, can't speak the language. The people were very, very good. When we started school here, the teachers and the council was quite good, because when we first came, they came to our house. My sister called Fatima, but we called her Zara because they said they might call her Fatiman, because we didn't know what it meant, but they told us it was like a person. They helped us with everything from that to our learning of English. They gave us a special English teacher, and she would teach me and my brother and my sister just English in school.
I was just nearly 16 years old. I came to England. Well, I came to Britain with my parents. My father was here before, and he went back to Bangladesh, and he brought us here. I came with my little brother, my father and mother, and we came by British Airways from Dhaka to Heathrow Airport. Most likely, it was, I think, the stop in Karachi in Pakistan, then came here. May 1970. Well, my parents wanted to bring us here to have a better prospect of life. I came in this country, I used to live in Birmingham. My first impression is the roads are so big, so nice. The building is very, very tall, and the lighting is great in the evening.